Andrew Breitbart, the guest of the Garrison Show, to set things off. Top of the hour. Andrew's got a piece of breaking news, which is more than a little bit convoluted. I'm not going to try to even touch the thing, Andrew. All I'm going to do is say good morning to you and have you tell us what's going on with the big 400 here.
Well, it's a breaking news story. If you get to say you broke it, it's not even up on the big sites. That'll be up probably within the hour. But the $100,000 that went unclaimed when I tried to get money, offer money for somebody to show me that the N-word was said on the Capitol steps by Tea Party people against the Congressional Black Caucus, that went unclaimed because the act did not occur. Right now, I am offering $100,000 to liberal journalists out there who are on a secret listserv. It's basically an organized 400-strong liberal journalists and academic types who work together on this email list called Journo List. It's not about academia. It's called Journo List. And there's 400 strong people.
How do they spell that?
Journolist. And the reason why Journalist is in the news is because one of its participants, and this is a secret group, and everything is supposed to be off the record, he has absolutely been outed by the left for his crimes against the left because he's sided with the big sites a few times. He was the one who came out in our defense and said we won that round with the Congressional Black Caucus. Everybody is looking at his outing as an example of a person who is engaged in liberal bias. This guy, Dave Weigel, was supposed to cover the conservative beat at the Washington Post. So all conservatives are looking at him and piling on and saying, how dare Dave Weigel say these horrible things on this list that was supposed to be secret? What did he write on the Journo List? He wished for Matt Drudge's death. He wished for Rush Limbaugh's death. I'm not going to defend him on this, but the reason why he was outed by this list of 400 liberals is because from time to time he would side with the conservatives on major issues. And I think that the importance of Journo List is that we think that there's media bias out there and that it's semi-natural. None of us are willing to claim that it is a conspiracy. I am arguing that the existence of journalists with 400 liberals on board in which they exchange their ideas back and forth, knowing that they're protected from privacy, that this is the way that they're able to shape narratives and stories that you think that should be covered on a mass scale. These guys are behind the scenes trying to figure out ways to stop those stories, in their tracks. So I'm offering $100,000 to somebody within that crowd. Hopefully somebody there doesn't have integrity and they're willing to provide for me the full journalist list, because we've only seen the writings, a small amount of writings of one of the 400 members, and that is a Washington Post reporter wishing the death upon one of the subjects, on two of the subjects that he's supposed to cover objectively. When these people tell us that they're objective journalists, they're bald-faced liars.
So this Journo List, this is 400 liberals who are in the business of what they would call journalism, but they're essentially just flacking for the left.
Yes, and it's not that they're doing it based upon paying attention to what's going on out there and siding with their own, natural politics. They're there at the invitation of Ezra Klein from the Washington Post, and it is in that secret society of their emails back and forth throughout the entire day, some of it on policy, but some of it in terms of going after the journalists on the right and the participants, the politicians on the right. This is a place where they're attacking Sarah Palin, they're attacking all the conservatives. It's where conformity is bred. If you ever feel that small group of people in Washington have a very narrow point of view, it's because of entities like the Journalist, and I'd like to look into it. So that's why I'm offering $100,000 so that we can deconstruct who are these journalists, what do they have to say about the average American people, why do they conflate the false allegations that the N-word was said in order to disparage the Tea Party movement, and why do they, when we are able to prove otherwise, why are they silent? Is that being conspired behind the scenes amongst 400 of these people? I want to know, and I'm willing to pay $100,000 for it.
Okay, so when you say journalist people, do we believe these just to be writers, or are these people that are in the electronic media as well?
It's everything. It's well, I don't know who's on it other than Ezra Klein is a major force now. He's a very young guy. I believe he's in his mid-20s, but he's the one that invited people, and it is a very cliquish, popular, DC-based group of people. There are definitely people in academia. There are definitely people at Think Progress. I'm under the impression that Max Blumenthal, who was the origin of the James O'Keefe organized a racist confab, which we ended up debunking. And Dave Weigel was the person who confirmed that Max Blumenthal was not telling the truth. It is my personal belief that it is a Max Blumenthal type who wanted to, have retribution on a person like Dave Weigel, because in that group, conformity is created, and a Dave Weigel did not conform 100% of the time, and that, to me, is what is going on in the mainstream media. It is collusion.
So these guys are the template manufacturers. These are the architects that Rush talks about in more general terms.
Drivers. Yes, these people craft the narrative. When you think a Swift Boat story or a Dan Rather story, is so big, and everybody's paying attention to it on talk radio and saying, how can people not be paying attention to this? We've disproved it. It's these types of groups that have been created because of their fear of a rising under media of right-wingers who are mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore. They needed to create alternative structures so that they can be on the same page, so that they're not caught, off guard like they've been caught off guard in this age of new media where we're creating our own narratives. We put our facts out there, and sometimes they don't know how to handle it. This is how they handle it. They tell each other, let's ignore that story, or let's attack that person. Let's wish death upon Rush and Drudge. It's pretty sick stuff.
So, but what it does is it brings into sharp focus that which we've been panned and laughed at. I can remember my old buddy Charlie Steiner, who was a ESPN anchor. Later was the voice of the Yankees. I think he may still be. Either that or went to L.A.
I hate to tell you, he's the voice of my Dodgers right now.
Is that where he is now? Dodgers? Okay. Yeah, that's right. He's in L.A. I talked to him a year or so ago. And Charlie's a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. He was a journalist before he was in sports. And he said, you just have to understand that these people that's too competitive. Nobody's ever going to have a template to try to keep the news in some kind of managed form. And I went, Charlie. Now what you're telling me is there's not just a template. There are 400 people conspiring the architecture of that template daily and punishing people with excommunication if they break the rules.
Not only that, I believe that there's an extra layer of this. I don't know if you pay attention to Media Matters, but it's a George Soros organization that gets about $10 million a year. And what it does is that it actively pursues those that would go outside of within the mainstream media that would side with the right, and they make an example of them. And so not only do you have a conformity creation center in journalists, that if you are going to stray outside of journalists, you've got a Media Matters there to zap you pretty darn hard. So, I would say this also. If you want a job in Washington, D.C., Dave Weigel came in there allegedly a conservative. It took many years. He's 28 years old now, and he now is an avowed liberal. That's what happens in the town because there aren't that many conservatives hiring. So those people that want to get paid for journalism eventually learn that the only way to do so is to at least represent yourself as liberal. It is that cutthroat in that town, and these people play to win. The journalists are there to play political warfare, not to act as stenographers.
Well, that's absolutely right. I know you got to get going, Andrew, so do we, because we got the rest of your bigs upcoming. God bless, my friend. Take care of yourself. We'll talk to you in a week.
Okay, talk to you later, Greg.
$100,000. What do you think of that one? Quick break, right back with big journalism. Stick around.